Welcome to the deep dive. You've handed us quite a stack of sources today, giving us a snapshot of Vietnam's economy and development right now. So our goal here, our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack these articles and notes. We want to pull out the key trends, the significant deals, and maybe some surprising insights into what's happening on the ground in Vietnam. Everything from, say, housing affordability to major infrastructure and investment shifts.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll be sifting through these pretty diverse pieces covering real estate, energy, infrastructure, M&A, you name it, to try and connect the dots and highlight what's most important for you to know from this material.
Okay, great. Let's unpack this then. Maybe starting with housing.
Yeah.
There's a particularly detailed look at one company's big move.
Yeah, this first source, it really dives deep into Nom Long ADC and their significant push into affordable housing. It talks about their success mainly in the South so far, having delivered over 10,000 e-home and e-homes units. That's quite a number. It is. And what's fascinating here, I think, is how they frame this. They explicitly state that focusing on this segment, catering to young families with moderate incomes, isn't just some side project. They see it as a sustainable business model.
Right. Driven by need.
Exactly. Driven by that very real gap between housing prices and what, frankly, a lot of people can actually afford. So it aligns profit with a clear social need, and it echoes the broader Nom Long Group's vision. Together, we create living environments and valuable products for communities.
And they're seriously scaling up, it looks like. They're responding directly to that government call for, 1 million social housing apartments by 2030?
That's the one. And Nom Long Group itself is targeting a massive 60,000 units by that deadline.
60,000, that's a huge leap. I mean, aiming for 6 times what they've already delivered. How do they plan to even achieve that?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or maybe the 60,000 unit question. The source lays out several factors they believe make this achievable. First, inheriting 35 years of expertise from the parent Nom Long Group.
Okay, experience helps.
Definitely. Then, having access to a strategic land bank, which is absolutely essential, for keeping costs down on affordable projects, plus proven development capability and a skilled team already in place.
Makes sense.
They also highlight their financial capacity and, importantly, the expectation of continued government support. Things like streamlined procedures, maybe reduced costs. Those are crucial for social housing projects.
Yeah, the government support piece sounds key. But how do they actually manage the balancing act, keeping prices low enough for families, but still running an efficient, profitable business?
Well, the article explains it as a sort of complex interplay. Business strategy, market conditions, the government policy, they all mix together. They emphasize rigorous cost control across the board, standardized design templates to speed things up, and a streamlined development supply chain. And they've developed these standard e-home and e-homes projects based on specific criteria they call 3E. That's economy, efficiency, ecology, and 3S, saving, smart, social. The idea is that these aren't just buzzwords. They genuinely guide the design and construction to manage costs while adding value.
Interesting. I also saw they're looking outside Vietnam for lessons. The source mentions studying comparable ASEAN markets.
Yes, exactly. They're drawing lessons from places like Thailand, where similar affordable products sell well under $90,000, and the Philippines, where you see projects under $73,000.
So using that as a benchmark.
Precisely. That market intelligence informs their own pricing and product strategy. Now, the source acknowledges that profit margins per unit are, leaner than luxury developments, obviously. But they aim for overall investment efficiency through lower capital outlay and, crucially, swifter capital turnover, basically selling many units quickly rather than fewer expensive ones slowly.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for me. The source talks about them expanding beyond their traditional base in the South. They're heading north, specifically starting in Hai Phong, Q3 2025. That feels like a pretty big leap into a new market, potentially quite different.
It is, yeah, and they seem to acknowledge the challenges. The source says they've done detailed market research up north. They're collaborating with local firms who understand the regional dynamics.
Right.
And they're adapting their product designs. Things like house orientation to suit the northern climate, community utilities that align better with local cultural preferences. It's not just a copy-paste job.
And they're doing this now, despite maybe some recent market fluctuations. Seems a bit counterintuitive to expand so aggressively during potential uncertainty.
The article makes a strong point here, actually. They believe demand for affordable housing persists, almost regardless of broader market cycles. The source highlights that even during tough market periods, like 2011-13 and the more recent 2022-24 slowdown, their e-home units consistently showed rapid absorption rates, often selling out within a month, it says.
Wow. So history backs them up.
That historical performance seems to underpin their confidence in the timing for this northern expansion.
Yeah. And there's external data pointing to this need too, isn't there?
Absolutely. The Vietnam Association of Realtors, VAREs, reported in 2024 that while property launches tripled year on year to 65,000 units, which sounds like a lot, a staggering 70% were high-end.
70%.
Meaning affordable housing was, quote, almost absent from the market. So this severe shortage really validates Nom Long's strategic focus and highlights the huge unmet demand they're trying to tap into.
Their message to potential customers seems pretty clear too, and quite socially conscious.
Yes. They position eHome as housing that's both affordable and attainable. They emphasize its profound social value, helping families settle down and build a life. And they highlight the dedication to designing quality homes with green landscapes, community parks, health facilities, trying to build integrated communities, not just basic shelters.
So if we take all this on Nom Long together, what's the picture it paints?
Well, I think it paints a picture of a company that's identified a really fundamental, persistent need in the market. They've developed a model they believe works, even in challenging times. They're backed by significant experience and financial muscle. They're strategically aligning with a major government priority.
Right.
And now they're confidently expanding that model into new geographic regions. It feels like a significant player making a very deliberate, scaled push into a critical sector.
Okay, so that's one really significant piece of the puzzle from your sources. But there's a whole range of other economic signals here that give us a broader pulse for what's happening in Vietnam. Let's look beyond just housing for a bit.
Right. These other sources, they touch on various aspects of the economy, showing activity across different sectors. We definitely see international cooperation happening, for example.
Yeah, like Vietnamese and French agencies signing 2 cooperation documents, specifically in energy and minerals, wasn't it?
That's right, energy and minerals.
And Spain expressing willingness to cooperate and share expertise in high-speed railway development. They noted their own extensive network. What do these tell us?
Well, these point to pretty targeted collaboration in key strategic sectors, securing energy and mineral resources, developing major infrastructure like high-speed rail. It shows Vietnam engaging specific partners for specific, technological expertise and resource needs. It's not just general agreements.
Okay. And shifting gears to specific industries, we see news about a major construction materials maker, Viglasera.
Exactly. Viglasera, Vietnam's leading construction materials maker. They're projecting a substantial 21% revenue hike in 2025. That's a pretty strong signal of expected activity in the construction sector overall.
Which could tie back into housing, but also bigger projects.
Precisely. Could encompass everything from the affordable housing projects we just discussed to larger infrastructure and commercial developments. It suggests broad-based construction growth expectations.
And on the energy front, beyond the French cooperation, there's movement on new power sources too.
Yes, we see progress on Vietnam's first LNG-fired power plants, Non Track 3 and 4. A new ministerial decision suggests they are expected to begin commercial operation this year.
So bringing LNG online.
Yeah, it marks a step towards diversifying Vietnam's energy mix, incorporating liquefied natural gas as a significant power source.
There are also some pretty significant shifts happening in the investment landscape, M&A activity, major project groundbreakings.
We have a few notable examples here in the sources. Thailand's SCG Packaging, a major regional player, is becoming the sole owner of Vietnam's leading plastics firm, Duy Tan. They're acquiring the remaining 30% stake.
Okay, so consolidation there.
Seems like it. Suggests a foreign player consolidating its position, taking full control in a key local industry. On the other hand, you have Vina Capital's Vietnam Opportunity Fund, a prominent investment vehicle, fully divesting from the Tam Tree private hospital chain.
Interesting exit.
Potentially signaling an exit after reaching investment goals in the healthcare sector, perhaps, a portfolio adjustment.
And luxury real estate is still attracting big money. Seems like a contrast with the affordable housing push, but maybe just shows market diversity.
Precisely. That's a good way to put it. Singapore's Capital and Development recently broke ground on the Fulton. That's their first luxury low-rise residential development in northern Vietnam, valued at approximately $800 million.
800 million. Wow.
So yes, while affordable housing is critical and attracting major local players like Nom Long, the luxury segment is also clearly active and attracting substantial foreign investment. It indicates different parts of the real estate market are robust.
We also see some changes in leadership and strategy within companies operating there.
Yes. For example, Hom Kwan, which is another major affordable housing developer, just appointed a new general director, a leadership change there. Meanwhile, a large international player, U.S. Cargill, has announced it's exiting the aquafeed business in Vietnam.
Right, getting out of fish food.
Suggests a strategic shift for them, maybe globally or within the region, moving away from that specific agricultural sector in Vietnam.
Okay. And on the financial side, there's some specific forecasts being made about the currency.
Yeah, UOB is providing currency forecasts for the USD-VND exchange rate. They predict, let's see, VND 26,300 per US dollar in Q3 2025. Then a slight strengthening of the dong to 26,100 in Q4 2025.
Yeah.
0.25,900 in Q1 2026 and 25,700 in Q2 2026. So specific projections reflecting their view on currency movements over the next year or so.
And there's a broader point about policy support for the private sector mentioned in one source, something about Politburo resolutions.
Yes, an expert is quoted highlighting 4 recent Politburo resolutions. They're framed as marking a critical turning point for Vietnam's private sector. While the source doesn't detail all 4, the significance highlighted is that these resolutions are seen as opening up major opportunities.
Oh.
Likely by addressing previous regulatory hurdles, maybe, or providing clearer policy direction that enables private businesses to really thrive and expand.
Yeah.
A signal of support.
Got it. We also get these little glimpses into the performance of specific trade sectors and tech adoption in finance.
Indeed. The functional food market, for instance, is expected to continue its upward trajectory. That indicates growth in consumer health and wellness spending. Banks are leveraging national data integration to offer fully digital lending services.
That's a big step.
It's a significant technological advancement, yeah. Could streamline processes, potentially increase financial inclusion. And then you have garment textile exports hitting over $17.5 billion in the first 5 months of 2025. That's up a healthy 9% year on year in a major traditional export sector. Still growing.
And finally, industrial real estate. Still very much on the radar, it seems.
Yeah, definitely still active. We see mentions of ongoing activity. VSAP Bindin, part of a major industrial park developer, is specifically seeking to attract Thai firms. So targeted FDI efforts.
Okay.
Sumitomo, another large Japanese investor, got the okay to build its 4th industrial park in Vietnam, demonstrating continued confidence from established players. And there's a Vietnam-China joint venture eyeing a substantial $120 million green industrial cluster project in the north.
Green industrial. Interesting focus.
Highlighting investment in environmentally focused industrial development, yeah.
So, okay, pulling all these threads together, the detailed focus on affordable housing, the international cooperation deals, manufacturing output, energy development, M&A, financial forecasts, and industrial park development. What's the overall takeaway from this snapshot of Vietnam's economy, based on your sources?
Well, if we try to connect this to the bigger picture, I think these sources collectively suggest a highly dynamic, really multifaceted Vietnamese economy right now. It's clearly attracting diverse investment and development across a wide range of sectors.
Right, not just one thing.
Not at all. We see activity addressing fundamental domestic needs like the housing affordability piece, while simultaneously advancing key strategic areas like energy, infrastructure, higher value manufacturing. There's a clear and active interplay, between government priorities, the strategic moves of both domestic and international private sector players, and that international participation driving different facets of this growth. It's definitely not a single story, but many stories happening all at once.
This deep dive has certainly given us, a lot to think about regarding Vietnam's economic landscape right now.
Absolutely. It really shows the complexity, doesn't it? And the multiple layers of activity happening concurrently, from, micro-level company strategies like Nom Long's expansion to macro-level international deals and policy impacts.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I think it highlights how interconnected different sectors of an economy really are. how policies addressing housing affordability, say, or major infrastructure investments like high-speed rail, LNG plants, manufacturing output, investment trends, how they all play a role in a nation's growth trajectory and ultimately the opportunities within it.
Exactly. And perhaps the final thought for you to maybe mull over is this. How might the success or the challenges in addressing a fundamental and widespread need, like affordable housing, actually impact the broader trajectory of Vietnam's economic development? Does tackling that basic need affect its ability to attract and retain talent and investment in these other growing, maybe more technologically advanced sectors we've touched upon? Is getting the basics right a kind of prerequisite for that higher level growth, something to consider?